Hello students, welcome back for this course on object-oriented programming in Java. Hello students, welcome back for this course on object-oriented programming in Java. In this class, in the last class, basically we have discussed that how to write the program using class and objects, and we have executed few programs using Notepad. You must be wonder that that program which we have written in the last class, in that the values which are given, that is the static values, that is the constant values which you are assigning, and only those values are getting executed, right? But you must be wonder that how to take the input from the user, the way we are taking the input in case of C programming language. If I ask you that how to take the input from the user, so you know you are using the scanf function in order to take the input from the user, right? Same is the case if I ask you about the Python, so we are having the input function to take the input from the user. Likewise, whenever we want to take the input from the user in Java, so how to take the input, that we are going to see, and also we are going to see that how to execute the program onto the Eclipse IDE. Means here onwards we are going to use the Eclipse IDE for writing our programs. So let's start. The standard input and output function which we are having in case of C programming is printf and scanf. So which are the different standard input output function which we are having in case of Java? So when I'm talking about the standard output function in Java, so we are basically having the three different output functions basically. The very first that we already use, that is system.out.println. Second, instead of println we can use system.out.print, and third we can even use the system.out.printf. So where in this particular statement, when I'm talking about system.out.println, so the system is basically the class, whereas out is public static field through which no we are just printing the data onto the output screen. So it is simple that whenever I want to print something on the output screen, so we are basically supposed to use the Java output functions, and we can use either of the function. Let's say sop system.out.println, or we can use system.out.print, or even we can use sometimes system.out.printf. That is absolutely, it's what your choice, and it is depending upon for which particular scenario you want to use that particular function. Then next and very important thing, that how to take the input from the user in Java. So in case of C, you're simply including that stdio.h, and then you're using a printf, then you're using a scanf, then access specifier, then the address, and accordingly you were taking the input from the user, right? Whereas those access specifiers were differing with respect to the type of data which you want to take the input from the user, right? If I want to take the integer as an input from the user, in that case you are using the access specifier as a %d. If you want to use as a float, then you are using the access specifier as a %f, and so on. Likewise, whenever we want to take the input from the user in Java, so as the Java is an object oriented programming language, so we have to make use of certain classes and the object, right? Whereas in Java we are having the number of packages which are designed to perform the particular task, right? The packages are simply reducing the overhead of the programmer or the user, because in order to use the particular feature or the particular characteristics, the programmer or the user simply have to import that particular package, right, in which that particular feature, the particular property is defined. And no, we do not need to write the entire logic for that. We simply bring that package into the code, and we can simply use the functionalities of that particular package. So similarly, whenever we want to use, or whenever we want to take the input from the user, so that particular function or that particular characteristics is defined inside the standard function that is called as a scanner class, right? In case of Java, everything is in the form of class and objects. So whenever I want to take the input from the user, we require the scanner class, and that scanner class is defined inside the package. Now try to understand the hierarchy, right? We are having the package. So package is nothing but the collection of classes, that it is having a several classes. So it may require that you want to use the entire classes which is defined in that particular package, or sometimes you want to use the particular class which is defined in that respective package. So as I'm saying that I want to take the input from the user, and in order to take the input, I'll be only requiring the scanner class, right? Whereas that scanner class is the part of util package. So it is not like that the util package only having a scanner class. The util package may be having a number of class, right? But out of that, I know significantly, I know specifically कि out of the util package, I required the scanner class in order to take the input from the user. So what I will doing, I will simply call that particular class. If in case you are not aware about the particular class name, that which particular class name I want to use from the particular package, in that case simply you use the star. That is, syntax is what? In order to import the package, we are having the syntax like import java dot package name dot class name, right? If you are knowing the particular class name, in our case, as I'm saying, scanner class, so what I'll be writing, that is import java dot util dot scanner, right? So that will bring the scanner class out of the util package. If I said कि I do not know the exact name of the package, let's say I do not know the exact name of the class, so in that case what I will do, I will write down simply import java.util.star. So the star means all the classes which is defined in that particular package, right? So we are going to see that how we are going to use it while writing the program. And once you import this particular package, next, in order to use this class, that is a scanner class, right? As we already defined that in order to access the content of the class, we require the object, right? So similarly, whenever I want to use the scanner class in my program, I need to create the object, right? So what I'm doing, I will be writing the class name, that is a scanner, and I'm creating this sc as an object. Whereas you can create any object as per your convenience, as per your no preference, right? And then simply you will be calling the constructor of the scanner, and as you want to take the input from the user, that is in the system, so we'll be writing the system.in. So I will be just getting clear with this particular terminology when we start typing the code. But as if now what we understand, key, in order to take the input from the user, will be requiring the scanner class, whereas that scanner class is defined inside the package, that is util. So we need to import that package in order to take the input from the user. And as we are importing the scanner class, so in order to use the function of the scanner class, will be requiring the object, right? So we need to create the object for that particular class. So this is how we are going to import the package and how we are going to use it in actually in the program. So this is what import java.util.scanner. So as I told you earlier, that if you know the precise name of the class, you can mention this class name. If you are not aware about the class name, you simply put the star. The moment you put the star instead of the scanner, it will take all the package, all the classes of this util package. Then next we need to create the object for this class. So I'm creating the object, that is scanner. Input is my object name. You can give any name to this object, and then again you are just passing this construct, that is in order to assign the memory to this particular object. And then now when I'm saying that I want to take the input from the user, right? So like in case of C, you know that either you can take the integer as an input, floating point as an input, let's say string as an input, character as an input. Similar is the case whenever you want to take the input from the user. So but obviously user is either going to put some numerical value, some decimal values, some characters, some strings. So in order that which type of input you want to take from the user, accordingly you are having the different things which is defined inside the scanner class. Like if I want to take the integer value as an input from the user, right? And that integer values, let's say I want to store inside the number variable, right? So as I want to take the integer values from the user, so I'll be writing the object name, that is input is my object name, dot next int, right? This particular function is precisely defined or precisely there in the scanner class in order to take the integer values as an input, right? Similarly, if I want to take the floating point as an input, so in that case I need to replace this function as a next float. If I want to take the string as an input, so in that case you can simply use the input dot next line or simply next. So that is, I'm just taking that particular part. So let's say this is what, if I want to take an integer input from the user, right? So as I want to take the input from the user, so basically I will just importing the package name, then I will be just creating the object for this particular class, and I will be just giving the message to the user that enter an integer. And in order to take the input from the user, I'll be now creating the variable, and I will be using the particular function depending upon the type of input which I want to take from the user. As in this case I want to take the integer values from the user, so I'll be using the function nextInt, right? And this particular input, whichever is entered by the user, will be stored inside the number variable. So in order to print whatever is inputted by the user, I'll be simply writing that the entered number is stored inside this number, right? And this is what input is object name of the scanner class, nextInt method of the scanner class to get an integer from the user, right? Likewise, in order to take the long values, we are having a long. In order to take the floating values, we are having a float. We are having double, we are having a next, right? So that is depending upon the type of input we want to take from the user, right? Similarly, right, this is, let's say if I want to perform the addition of three numbers, and those three numbers should be inputted by the user, right? So I'll be giving the message enter the first number, I'll be storing that in the A, B, C, and I will be performing the addition on the numbers which is input by the user, right? So this is clear. And then if I want to take the string as an input, so we are having the two different methods which is defined inside the scanner class. Now if you can see, here I use the star, right? Right, so both way, that is either use the scanner or the star, both are the appropriate way to import the package. And then again inside that, again I created the object. Let's say the object is sc now, and in order to take the string as an input from the user, I'll be using a next line or simply using a next function, right? So using both the functions, you can take the input from the user as a string. And this is what a complete program in which you can take the input as an integer, float, a double, and string, right? So again, the object is one, that is the input object, right? Let's say I'm taking the floating point as an input from the user, so I ask the user that enter the floating values, and in order to save the floating values which is inputted by the user, I'll be using a variable myFloat. Again, the variable is your choice, your freedom, that whichever variable you want to use, you can use it. And in order to take the floating values, I need to take the object name dot next float method in order to take the floating point values. Similarly, double, in order to take the double values, I need to use the double. And similarly, if I want to take the string as an input, I need to use the next method. So this is quite clear that how we are going to take the input from the user, right? And next, in this particular program, we are going to execute in Eclipse, right? And we'll see that how to take the input from the user and how to execute the program over the ID, Eclipse ID, right? So let's start, and let's jump to the Eclipse ID. I already opened the Eclipse ID, right? What we do, very first we just go to the new, and we create the new project, that is file, go to the new, and then select the project. Just select the Java project because we are writing the Java code. Let's say demo class is what my project name, or let's say I'm saying first project, fine. And I'm clicking on finish. So you can see that my project is get created over here, right? And in order to create the class, again I need to right click on this particular project, that is first project. The moment you click right click, it will give the number of options to you. Just go to the new option. It's taking some time. It's in the new, just select the class, okay? That is, I want to create the new class, and let's say I'm saying that this is the class which is demo class, right? Which is the part of first project. So I created the class and I'm clicking on finish. Right, you can see that the demo class.java class has been created. Now, what was the problem statement? Such type of a problem statement you may get in the examination. that write the Java program to define the class employee with the data members as employee ID, name and salary, take the input for this data members from user, like that, right? So here the class name is employee and I have make it as an, so I need to rename this, so I will be just renaming it, right? You are having the option of where it is refactor, replace with, compare, validate, profile, references, refactor, delete, copy, open with the option for rename. Otherwise I can now create the new class. Simply I will just create the new class which is having the name as employee as given in the problem statement. So I'm just now giving the name of the program as employee now, right? So now you can see that there is a new class which has been created, that is employee, right? And inside that, what is said, that we should have the data members as employee ID, name and salary. Fine. So let's say int employee ID is what, my data member. The next is name and salary. So name is what, name is string, so I'm taking name as a string, and let's say salary as float. So this is quite clear that what I have written, that is data members, right? And let's say I'm defining two methods. Let's say very first is input method in order to take the input from the user, right? And in that, let's say I'm first giving the message to the user that system dot out dot, it's taking time, just wait for it. System dot out dot println, system dot out dot println. Okay, we'll see that if I use the print, what will happen, and if I use the println, what will exactly happen. So let's say I'm saying that enter the employee ID, right? What we are assuming that we want to take the input from the user, right? So now if you can see, uh, this is perfectly okay, right? But what we said, in order to use, or in order to take the input from the user, we need to import something, right? So as I want to use the scanner class, so I will be requiring import.java.util package, right? So util dot, let's say scanner, I know the class name. Fine. So now once I am having this thing, now I can now use this. So what I will be doing now, I will be simply using the function, let's say input, and let's say I'm defining one more function, void display function. Okay, and again inside the display function I will be, let's say, writing system dot out dot println, and let's say we are saying that the employee, the ID is, and it is stored inside the variable that is emp id. Likewise, let's say I want to display the next thing, that is the name of the employee is, the name is, right? Let's say it's stored inside the name variable. And finally, let's say I want to print the salary, right? So I will be saying salary the salary is salary. Fine. And lastly, we'll be requiring the main function. So I'll be defining public static void main, and I'll be passing string arguments, right? And here I'll be creating the object for my class. My class is employee, and let's say object is e is equals to new, and let's say again I'm calling this constructor employee, right? Now you will find that I haven't created the object for the scanner. That is the reason why I write the main function. So in order to use this scanner class, I'll be requiring the object for the scanner class as well. So what I'll be doing, I'm just creating the object for the scanner class. Let's say scanner, and let's say I'm giving the object name as the input is equals to new, and I'll be calling this scanner constructor. and inside that we'll have to pass system dot in, right? Hope it is clear. Sorry, just a minute. System dot in. So that's how we created the object for the scanner class now. And now in order to take the input from the user, I have to use input dot, that is the object name, dot the variable name. Variable name is employee ID and is equals to, right, what we need to do, that is employee ID, that is the first thing we are having, what we said in this, that in order to take the input, that is we have to define the variable and we have to use the object name dot the function name. So here input dot, this will be required there, and let's say input dot next int, this is what the input I want to take from the user, and I need to specify the data type integer employee ID, right? This is perfect. Now object name is input. It is actually creating the ambiguity, I guess. I'll be taking as an input. So it will be get stored inside the variable, that is next integer, right? Then next message I will be pop-upping for the user, that input enter the name of the employee, enter the name of the employee, and let's say I will be creating the object that is string name, and I'll be saving that input dot next function. Fine. And lastly I'll be requiring this thing, that is again the same thing. In order to take the salary as an input, in order to take the salary as an input, what I need to do, that is enter the salary of the employee. Fine. And in order to take the salary, I will be again requiring the variable, and this time the variable is float, so I'll be using a float salary, and again I'll be using, instead of next int, I'll be using next float, right? So now this is what the program which you have written, like the same way we have talked about this particular thing, right? So in order to take the input, let's say this is what a program which I try to type, that is I have created the employee class in which I have defined the name, employee ID, salary, where I'm getting the input, that is this thing, right? Just a second, I just committed a mistake, that this particular object needs to be created where I want to use the input function, that is here only, right? So now this is okay, and in order to access this input and display, I have to use the denomination, that is object name dot function name. My function name is input function, that is calling the function, and second will be object dot second name, that is display function. So this is quite clear, right? So your code is ready to go now. We have taken the input from the user and we have printed the things, no, using the display function, and we have called this both the functions at the main function. So now if I click on this play button, no, in order to execute the code, now you can see that it is asking that enter the employee ID. Let's say I'm saying 123. Fine. Next it is asking the name of the employee. Let's say I'm saying Ajay. Enter the salary. It is asking, let's say I'm saying 2345. Just a minute, it has been just given the, I have not entered the outputs correctly, so again I need to execute it. So again I'm executing the same code. Now it is asking enter the name of the employee, enter the employee ID, let's say 123, right? Next it is asking the name of the employee, let's say I'm saying Ajay. It is asking the employee salary of the employee, let's say I'm asking this much, right? And now it is what saying the employee ID is 0, the name is null, the salary is 0.0. Why this problem is because yes, the problem is because there should not be the problem as such, because string was there, the name was there, equals to, this is perfectly okay, this is perfectly okay. E dot input and e dot display. Okay, let's execute it one more time. The name and the salary, we are taking the input in the same way. So let's check it one more time. 1 2, let's say the name is Ajay and let's say the salary is 34.23, and now we can see the name of the employee is this thing, right? So this is how we are going to execute the code, that is we are storing the things into the respective variable. As we already defined this data members, so that is the problem, I guess. We do not need to specify the data type because already we have specified this, that is we have defined this integer, string and float here only, so there is no need to repeat the same thing again, and now there will be no problem as such. And now if I just type 1 2, if I say Ajay, if I say 32443, now you can see that the employed is 12, the name is Ajay, and the salary is 32443.0, right? So this is how we can execute the program over the Eclipse ID, and this is how we can take the input from the user. So hope this thing is quite clear. If you are having any doubt, any questions, you can ping me personally. And from the next class, we'll be starting with the last topic from this unit, that is the array. And also we'll see that how to use the array in the class and objects. So thank you so much. See you in the next class.